Have you ever found yourself tangled in a relationship where, no matter how much you give, it's never enough? You feel confused, unappreciated, and utterly drained. You're constantly walking on eggshells, trying to prove your worth, only to be met with disappointment and rejection. If this sounds familiar, you may be dealing with a female covert narcissist, an expert at manipulation, who can slowly erode your sense of self without you even realizing it. In this video, we'll uncover the 10 toxic tactics the female covert narcissist uses to dominate and control you. Stick around because by the end, you'll not only be able to identify these red flags, but also learn how to break free from this toxic cycle. Now, let's take a deep dive into the 10 toxic tactics the female covert narcissist uses to keep you in her web. These aren't just random behaviors. They're carefully calculated manipulations designed to confuse, control, and ultimately dominate you. Each tactic is a subtle weapon in her arsenal, aimed at chipping away at your self-worth until you're completely dependent on her for validation. Let's start with the first one. Tactic number 1, the illusion of trust. In the beginning, the female covert narcissist is going to reel you in with stories of her deepest pain, her darkest moments. It feels like you're the knight in shining armor who has finally broken through her walls. You see, she uses this tactic to make you believe that you're special, that she's never trusted anyone like this before. It's intoxicating. I mean, how can you not feel flattered? You're the chosen one. But here's the trap. This is all part of her game. As soon as the love-bombing phase wears off and reality starts to set in, she flips the script. Suddenly, you're the one who's broken that sacred trust. She starts accusing you of making her feel unsafe, insecure, and unimportant. Now, you're scrambling to figure out what went wrong, how you can fix it, and more importantly, how you can get back that person you fell in love with. You see, that's the catch. The version of her that you first met, that loving, vulnerable, and sweet woman, is nothing more than a mirage. She dangled that in front of you, making you believe you were the one person who could heal her. But now that you're in too deep, she's pulling away, and the only way you think you can get that version of her back is by constantly proving yourself. So you spend all your energy chasing this unattainable goal, all while she sits back and watches you dance to her tune. Tactic number 2, passive-aggressive chaos. Now, once you're hooked, she's going to deploy another incredibly toxic tactic, passive-aggressiveness. This one is a masterstroke in her playbook because it keeps you constantly confused. She might start an argument out of nowhere by accusing you of being in a bad mood. She'll say you have a tone or a look, even when you're totally fine. It's like she's fishing for a fight, and no matter what you say, you're falling into her trap. Here's the thing. She wants to create chaos. She wants to see how far she can push you. And when you finally snap, when you get angry or frustrated, boom, now you're the bad guy. She flips the whole situation around, making it look like you're the one overreacting. You end up apologizing for things you didn't even do. It's like being in a constant state of gaslighting, where you start doubting your own feelings, your own perceptions of reality. Or maybe she'll refuse to tell you what's wrong, even though something clearly is. She'll act upset, but when you ask what's going on, she'll shut you down with, "I'm fine," or "It's nothing." But you know it's not nothing, right? So you end up begging her to open up, desperately trying to figure out what you did wrong, pleading for her forgiveness, even though you don't even know what the issue is. That's her power, keeping you off balance, making you feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells. Tactic number 3, the fortress of defensiveness. Now, imagine this. You've had enough, right? You decide to stand up for yourself. Maybe you want to bring up something that's been bothering you or try to talk about an issue that's affecting both of you. Surely, in a healthy relationship, this would lead to a productive conversation, but not with a female covert narcissist. The second you try to address anything that bothers you, she becomes impenetrable. It's like talking to a fortress. She dismisses your feelings, minimizes your concerns, or completely shuts you down. Why are you always making a big deal out of nothing? You're too sensitive. You're overreacting. She's not just unwilling to listen, she's actively deflecting. You could present the most reasonable, well-thought-out argument, but she's not going to hear it. And here's the kicker. If she's the one who caused the problem, don't expect any accountability. She will twist and turn the conversation until somehow it's all your fault. Even if you do manage to get an apology, it's hollow. A tool she uses just to pull you deeper into the cycle of guilt and blame. Tactic number 4, zero empathy, total control. Empathy? Forget about it. With a female covert narcissist, there is no empathy. She might seem caring at first, remember that initial vulnerable stage? But as the relationship progresses, her true colors show. Your feelings, your pain, your fears, they don't matter to her. In fact, she'll often see your vulnerability as a sign of weakness, something she can exploit later. If you cry in front of her, if you open up about something painful from your past, don't be surprised if she uses it against you in a future argument. It's all about power. The more emotional ammunition she has, the more control she gains over you. And the worst part is, when you realize she doesn't care, when you see that coldness, it leaves you questioning your own worth. How can someone you care about so deeply be so indifferent to your suffering? Tactic number 5, you're always to blame. Here's a universal truth when dealing with a female covert narcissist. You will always be the one at fault. No matter what happens, no matter what she does, somehow you'll be blamed. It's like she has this incredible ability to twist reality, to make you feel like everything that goes wrong in the relationship is your doing. Let's say you decide to walk away from an argument to cool down. In a healthy relationship, that would be a wise move, right? Not with her. She'll accuse you of abandoning her, of not caring enough to work things out. But if you stay and try to resolve the issue, she'll call you aggressive, accuse you of being too pushy. It's a lose-lose situation, and you end up constantly questioning yourself, wondering what you could have done differently. The female covert narcissist thrives on making you feel like you can never do anything right. The more you try to fix things, the deeper you sink into her web. It's a vicious cycle, one where you're always the problem and she's always the victim. Tactic number 6, constant comparisons. Let's move on to another insidious tactic, comparisons. The female covert narcissist will constantly compare you to others, other men, other relationships, even strangers on the street. And guess what? No matter what you do, no matter how much you give, you'll always come up short in her eyes. You could be working yourself to the bone, giving her your time, your energy, your affection, your resources. But somehow, it's never enough. She'll make comments like, "Why can't you be more like so-and-so?" Or "That guy treats his girlfriend way better than you treat me." These comparisons are designed to make you feel inadequate, like you're failing her. And what happens? You double down. You try even harder. You give more. But it doesn't matter because the goalposts are constantly shifting. No matter how hard you try, you'll never meet her impossible standards. And that's exactly how she wants it, keeping you on edge, always striving for approval that will never come. Tactic number 7, performance grading. If the constant comparisons weren't enough, she'll also start grading your performance. Yes, you heard that right. She'll treat your relationship like a report card. Last night you were a 6 out of 10, or that dinner was only 50% of what I expected. It's absurd, right? But it's also effective. By grading your efforts, she's keeping you in a constant state of anxiety, always wondering if you're measuring up. You're constantly on thin ice, never knowing when the next criticism is going to drop. And the more she nitpicks, the more you feel like you're failing, not just as a partner, but as a person. This tactic is incredibly damaging because it feeds into that deep-seated fear of not being enough. She's not just undermining your confidence in the relationship, she's chipping away at your self-worth, leaving you feeling like you'll never be good enough for her or anyone else. Tactic number 8, unrealistic boundaries. Now let's talk about boundaries, or more accurately, her one-sided boundaries. A female covert narcissist will have a lot of boundaries for you to follow. She'll dictate what you can say, what you can do, who you can see. But when it comes to respecting your boundaries, forget about it. Anything you need or want is dismissed as unimportant or stupid. The double standards are glaring. She can have her privacy, her space, her freedom. But if you ask for the same, you're being selfish or unreasonable. She's in complete control, and over time, you find yourself giving up more and more of yourself just to keep the peace. Tactic number 9, total control over your life. The female covert narcissist isn't just interested in controlling the relationship, she wants to control your entire life. From the way you spend your time to the smallest decisions you make, she'll be there, questioning everything. You go to the gym, she accuses you of checking out other women. You spend time with friends, she questions your loyalty. Nothing is ever simple. What's even more insidious is that this control isn't always about jealousy. Often, it's just about power. She wants to keep you under her thumb, making you second-guess every move. Over time, you start doubting yourself, losing confidence in your ability to make decisions without her approval. It's psychological domination at its finest. Tactic number 10, the destruction of your self-respect. Finally, we come to the last and perhaps most devastating tactic. Over time, a female covert narcissist will strip you of your self-worth and self-respect. You'll find yourself constantly adjusting your behavior, walking on eggshells, trying to figure out what you're doing wrong. You'll be so consumed with trying to please her that you lose sight of who you really are. Eventually, you'll look in the mirror and barely recognize yourself. You'll see a shell of the confident, independent person you used to be. And worst of all, you might even start to believe the narrative she's created, that you're flawed, broken, and unworthy of love.